Hello, Commanders, and welcome to a continuation of my series that will show you how to build and trap an AFK Stonewood Endurance here in Fortnite Save the World. And for today's episode, I am going to show you how to prepare your D.I.P amplifier for an east set of attacks. But prior to doing so, let's go ahead and update you on the series. And I do want to mention that if you would like to catch up, and I actually recommend that you do so, all episodes are located within a playlist here on my YouTube page, and I do have that link in the description below for you. But when it came to episode number 1, I walked you through step by step and showed you how to build and trap and prepare for an east set of attacks. Then in episode 2, how to build, trap, and operate a material grinder. Third episode covered how to build and trap your amplifiers. And now, as mentioned, we will pick it up with episode 4 when it comes to your D.I.P amplifier. And we are going to begin and build off of our home base amplifier. And I actually want you to remove the wall dart that I had facing to the south here, as we will no longer need it. Now I'm going to begin with our block offs for the build. We're going to have, for a block off, a floor edited in a way of our choosing, either a reverse 45 or my preferred method, edited pyramid, again facing in your desired direction. 4 walls around and a ceiling. And if you are missing any piece of this, that would be known as a partial block off. And I mention that because often I see partial block offs in the game with other tutorials that are out there. And the problem with this is, number 1, when you are in Stonewood, Plankerton, I'd even say in Canny, you don't need to do this because you will have plenty of tiles for the most part throughout, especially as you become more effective and efficient with your building. But even more so, you have something that is called phasing in the game. And if enemies phase into your builds, all right, and they end up here, these walls will protect them and they can start lobbing and flinging and eventually defeat you. All right, so make sure that you place this wall because it can actually make or break you and save your endurance. So we do want to talk about that. And actually just your limited time mode or missions as well. Okay. But anyway, let's go ahead now off this with 2 full block offs. And with our block offs, we want them to all be tier 3 and metal for this particular endurance. Now, if you choose to use wood or stone, that is fine. Just make sure the entire block off or set of block offs is the same material and at the same level. An example of this, or what could occur if you do not, would be, for instance, if you level everything up and forget one of these floors and it's weaker, the enemies can aggro and become more interested in your builds. And you do not want that to occur, my friends. Truly, you do not. So make sure when you're going through that everything is tier 3. And our first block offs will face toward the east here. Floors and pyramids matching. And then we will go ahead and finish them off. All right. Next block offs. Up our natural terrain hill. Skip a top. 1, 2, 3 into the 4. And we're going to build around again all the way. Ceilings up top. Floors will be edited to the east, wrapping to the northeast, and then to the north, and then back to the northwest. Something like this. And then with our floors, pyramids. And then as we go through, I'm going to use this 1/3 wall around so that we can make sure we are, updating our build. And you always want to make sure you do have potentially this middle piece here, depending on, the directions you do or do not want the enemies to go into. Let's go ahead all the way around here. Now, this build will be a bit longer than most because we have numerous attacks that will occur out here, but it's a larger overall build. covering more territory, if you will. So I do need to be mindful of that, and we want to be particular for you and exact. So we'll go this route. All right, so everything here, this will be blocked off, and then we will match once again our tiles in the direction that we are building our floors. And we'll go all the way around. And then make sure the dividers are all done, and then we will go ahead and make sure that is gold. So basically an L shape of block offs, all facing and trying to keep them out from the area there. All right, let's go ahead and move along here and up and to this area right here. Your natural terrain hill right here. And we are going to go and build 1, 2, 3 into the 4. Now, typically, when it comes to block off, I never recommend more than 2, and then you would have your opening. But in this situation, we're going to go a double layer. And if you double layer, you can prevent potential problems from occurring. So we're going to go ahead and cover that and discuss why. But anyway, 4 block offs around with the ceilings to start with. Floors will be edited all facing to the east, with the exception of this floor here that we'll get back to in a bit. And then, of course, our pyramid pieces will mimic. And then go with the 1/3 walls again for the build. So this way here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to extend and do another set. And I'll just keep the lower 1/3 walls for now to make it easier to explain and to cover for us. Floors would face the same direction again, just like this here. Now, believe it or not, this second layer here can actually be avoided if you're willing to trap out internally your block offs here. I've done it both ways, but because I want it to be true AFK for you, and we're not going to want to run into any issues, I feel it's worth the additional pieces to go ahead and just build it out. So that's what we're going to do. I've also done content in the past where I had everything pre-built. However, the viewers tend to prefer, from what I've seen, and I've been told it's easier to follow along when I do not pre-build everything. So we're going to go ahead and continue with that pattern through this series. And depending upon how this endurance ends up and the support that we have and the interest level, then we'll talk about getting into our other endurances in the future. I do like to cover Stonewood, and I do genuinely believe that, especially for a new player, that this is the most important endurance you will ever do in your entire journey. That's why I tend to focus on it so much, and it's often overlooked, surprisingly. There's more focus typically on Canny Valley because it's full AFK typically. You do get, more gold as a result of completing it, more rewards theoretically. However, when you are early on, this will really help you with your home base levels and your rare perk up that's often overlooked. Will give you early XP amounts that are beneficial, amongst other fantastic rewards. Also help you with your battle passes. Okay. So anyway, this set of block house up here, and then as mentioned, we will go ahead and face the builds in the exact direction, and we will double and triple check that everything is at tier 3, and then we will also seal off our middle section pieces here. And I want you to do it this way and be methodical so you do not overlook or end up having, builds that are not all tier 3 and you're preventing weaker areas and so on and so forth. All right, so let's just go ahead and open all this. Just like we have here. And then again, we'll continue to face our floors in this scenario, to the east. All right. And then we will seal it down. We make sure we have our ceilings in case we have potential phasing and so on and so forth. And you are good with 8 block offs, just like we've shown you. All right, so that will be the main block off that we will go with. All right. Now, we're going to go ahead and move into this area right over here. Now, I often do not recommend doing this too often in the game, what I'm about to do. And we're going to build our own terrain. And I do have, you know, a purpose behind it when I talk about it, and we do want this all to connect here or be here, even though it's against the natural terrain. There's not much involvement, but it will help your base spread. But when it comes to this, we're going to go and build what we used to call, or I still refer to as, the old school Dorito build. Okay, and we'll face that in this direction. Do not build extension pieces inside if they're not going to play for you. Again, I build the ones here so the base will spread easier. But the issue that you have with these builds here is if they falter, and there is a good chance that they can, it can mess up the flow of your build. And I will tell you, through you know, many test runs that I've done here when it comes to this build, or because it is battle tested, by the way, through and through. At times, floors like this, and even in this endurance, can end up breaking, or the enemies can propane them, or smashers, believe it or not, can lift floors when they charge. And what's going to happen is the enemies will fall down into these areas, and it could, again, throw off the synergy of your trap tunnel potentially. Okay. But for this particular endurance, I like it. I like it early game as well, for the most part. But as you progress later through the game, again, those things will occur. So be aware of them. And also, when we are building here, and I like to have my builds all facing the same direction. There will be a meaning behind that. But once you have this down here then, okay, I do like a heels attached wooden floor spike here. And I'm just going to go straight durability because we are running endurance. And as a reminder, with the wooden floor spikes, not necessarily one of the most damaging traps in the game, but in my opinion, one of the absolute best and game-changing traps in all of Save the World, because of the mechanic. Your full tile of snare, and then your 2.5 tiles of slowing effect out, making all other traps in your build, you know, work that much better and be off of that reload time. But whenever you're building the structures, I do recommend that heels attached perk, typically on the floors, but we're going to leave these final two because I have something else I want you to do. All right, so that would cover this little section, and I do recommend it. Would also recommend building off of this wall here and this here, because if you can fit through an area, so can the husks. And I am not someone that promotes not building around natural terrain, because it will help, as I said, with your base spreading more evenly throughout, and also can result in the husks being less interested in areas where they can potentially squeeze through, which they can and they will. All right, so that section needs to be covered for sure. All right. Next thing we're going to do is extend walls around our natural terrain here. All the way, like this. And then across here for now. And we'll talk about this section as we move forward. And same as before, we'll just go ahead and tear that up. And we're going to work now on our trap tunnels, or tunnel, over here from the northeast. Now, I know many players will block all this off to keep the enemies out. And what I've found is you are utilizing more block off than you need to as a result. Remember, every block off that you use is 7 total pieces. when it comes to your build, and they will add up quickly. So I would tell you to be mindful of that. Okay. But everything, for the most part, make sure that you are at tier 3. Just like we have here. Now, when it comes to our trap tunnel, let's start here. I want a floor. An edited pyramid. I actually like the pyramid over the stairs when you build, over natural terrain. Floor, floor, and floor. Just like this right here. Then on the way down, we're going to build in and around the terrain, as we did before. We'll come out here, wrap it around, leave this back tile open, ceilings, we'll come above. This here, with a window, this like this, build into the natural terrain, and then a ceiling right up here on top. Out here, wall, and this. At the very end here, the finisher I recommend, edited pyramid, facing outward. And then this piece right here is one of the only times you'll ever see me use more than a 1/3 piece, especially when it comes to endurance, limited time modes, and late game content. Typically, it's going to be this 1/3 wall instead. And the reason behind that is when you utilize builds that take half of the trap tunnel and or even more, which I know people use, and I don't know why this has ever been used, but what you are doing here, though, is you are taking away open space in your trap tunnel, which can cause clogging. And then when something clogs, enemies behind, like smashers, will charge, propanes get thrown, and or exploders will stop and explode. And you do not want that action to occur. All right? So, because of that, just be aware that when you're using these, it's more of a specialized type thing at the end of your trap tunnels or, near a specialized kill box, for instance. Traps can also cause this early on in your tunnels as well, so be aware. Okay, I do want to point that out for you. All right, so we have this going right here. Then off of the build, I want a ceiling, this and this, with openings here and here. And then as you go down, a wall here. And then we are going to go through and make sure everything is initially at tier 3. And I'm going to show you some techniques to utilize that where you're probably going to have to adjust the level of the upgrade in order to get your traps to place. It's a bug in the game, and we want to make sure that we help you with that and cover, how you can, fix that. I'm actually going to go with this right here too. And up here. All right, so everything up at the appropriate tier. And then outside here, I want a wall, wall, and wall. Now, when it comes to my build, it is a damage style build. Many different ways to play Save the World. I choose damage. I like to crush husks. All right. And I'm not someone that believes in trying to make it cheap or save pieces when you don't need to. I'm a big fan of using everything and anything that you can to make your run that much better. Right? We actually don't want this right here. Let me go ahead and top off my material. I have some material sitting over here. Okay, everything at tier 3. And as always, every single piece that you place should have purpose, use, and meaning for it. That way nothing gets wasted. All right, right here on this floor, again, edited pyramid piece into the floor. And then we're going to wrap around like this right here. And then I'm going to utilize 2 block offs here. And believe it or not, here as well. I'm going to show you a couple of different things that we can do here, or different options. Then we have a 1/3 wall right here. 2 ceilings. And then your ceiling would extend here and then to here. And then I want you to build down here like this. And then a window wall right here. We're going to open this for a moment to talk to you about it. I'm going to give you some options when it comes to trapping. All right, and then everything here gets all upgraded to tier 3. And then we do want to be mindful about this section over here. And depending upon what we want to do underneath now, when it comes to your area right in here, we'll make a determination on that. And that'll be a trapping choice once again. And then from the top level, I will show you what we are looking at. 1, and then 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the 9. This back block off will face to the southeast direction. And again, everything tier 3. Ceiling in place. So one last pass over to ensure everything is at the proper tier. And then we can move off of it. Now, I thought about breaking this up into 2 separate episodes because it is so in-depth, but we're just going to go ahead and push through and make this a little longer. Of course, I'll have the timestamps available for you, but I like to run and do passovers and stuff here to make sure we have not missed anything. Because again, one piece, believe it or not, that is not upgraded can lose you your endurance. And that is a true statement, by the way. Okay. So just something to take consideration, that's for sure. And actually, for a moment, I'm going to put this here for an additional block off. But again, I'm going to give you some options of what you can do here. And this would be a play style choice, to be honest with you. It really and ultimately would come down to your play style in the game. And that's what I'm going to do in the build. I'm going to give you guys opportunities and options. All right. So that would cover the trap tunnel when we are working. And I'm going to walk you through it kind of, right? But through here like this. And then what I also have is through here, I do a window. And then off of your build, okay, starting here, I will walk this out to this point. So it's 3 tiles, 1, 2, and 3. And then we will take this all the way across the builds that you have down here for right now. All right, so let's go ahead and upgrade this, and I'll show you that aerial view again. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And then 13th piece right here, and you're kind of building off that other build that you have. Also want to point out when I'm building, I like all of the ceilings or floor pieces here to be facing in the same direction toward the attack. And or I'll change it and alternate it if 2 builds connect. And I will cover that here. It's actually a very nice technique to utilize. I will tell you, I've never had any issues or need, for the most part, to have any additional options here. And if you ever do notice it, a simple anti-air trap here could take care of that for you. But I've never needed that, and we're not going to cover it as such. So we're going to stop where I've built. Now you have this natural terrain little section here, and you'll have a spawn from it And I do want you to build off of it, or for it, excuse me. All right. So we're going to go here and here and up 2. So you've got that 1, 2, 3 into the 4. We'll build these 4 pieces here. We'll skip a tile. We're going to go 1, 2, and 3. And 1, 2, and 3 off the connection. Over here, off this natural terrain, it's 1, 2, like this. And over here, it's 1 and 2, like that. And then here now, we'll talk about that in a moment. Everything again at our tier 3. Actually, I'm going to do it now. You're going to go a third here and a third right there. Okay. And then we're going to work this across because we're here now. To your natural terrain. And temporarily, I'm going to put these floors here because it's going to make it easier for us to upgrade in the end. So we got all that going. Again, just making sure everything is maxed tiered out where we can see it. And then we will wrap around here and do the same. We'll rebuild these in a second as I'm trapping, but for now, let's take them down so I can show you exactly what it should look like. You actually don't need that tile right there. But for, if you're worried about, any issues at all whatsoever, another tile here just to make it clean and to finish it off, I never mind doing that because they can actually all have use here. If you want them to, that is. All right. But it kind of connects and finishes everything off. Now, from this point, go up again. Just taking a look. Your ceilings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7 to the 8. So you have that U formation. Or upside down U, we call it. And then again, everything will be upgraded. And we'll move off of it. And that has this section up here. And it's a really nice area to pay attention to. And it really can make it so that you have more durability out here on your other traps in your tunnel. And then off this terrain here, you finish it off and seal it down. Just like this here. All right, so let's get that upgraded now. But then from that part, when we talk about your northeast build, that's got you covered. Right? As you go around. All right, then we have our trap tunnel here and this area right up here. And I will tell you in advance, we'll build up here and around, just like I'm doing here with ceilings. Just going to kind of give you the pattern here for a moment of what you can do here. Or what I recommend, I guess. So basically off these two here, just come straight up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to the 11. just around here. You come there, and I'll show you. So let's go ahead and upgrade. And that will cover you here for right now. And then when you come out here, 1, 2, to the 3. And then out here, it's 1 and 2. Just like you have your 2 there. A similar technique to what we used above. And again, when you talk about this area here, there's a spawn. It can blow up your builds here. I'm going to place these builds because I like them here. We're just going to build them now because I am looking at it. This little section here, I like to cover this. But there's a spawn here in situations with hotspots and that could take these tiles. But when it comes to my builds, I always just build as if the hotspot does not occur. And then when it does not, my build becomes even stronger. But there are some areas where I will tell you when it comes to that not to build at all. It doesn't make sense. You're basically just wasting it at that point. Okay. So again, this little section in here and around. And if you actually have extra tiles, there's a little extension here that you can do to make this even nastier. Where you can just keep working this around the edge if you wish. But you don't need to. That's just, it is overkill at that point. You don't need to do all that. Because you could take care of the enemies as they're coming down through here and all that good stuff. All right, so that's all good. Now, over here, we have a section. Right from the opening, pretty much, of your tunnel. I want you to build like this, and like this around. And then in here, I like a ceiling and 2 windowed walls, just like this. Make sure, again, everything's at tier 3. And you are golden. So that is an important section that we will discuss in the future. Then we have over here, regular 1, 2, and to the 3 over here, facing toward the east off this. Let's go grab some metal over here. I think I got some sitting up top still, potentially. Okay. Now, right here, I want you to go ahead and put your floors here for a moment. 1 and 2, just to match, so you'll have your other tiles. In this area right here, and this area right here, 3 more floors. I like block-offs. This one faces to the northeast, and this one straight to the east. Pyramids again. Ceiling here. And then this will be open for now. All right. Ceiling straight down here. Ceiling, ceiling, and another ceiling, and another ceiling, believe it or not. So I will count those for you off the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the 5. And at the end of this 5th one right here, 2 tiles to connect off of the home-based amplifier that I built, but it's not connected to the amplifier itself. Very important. It's off the dart that shoots into it, just so we're clear. You never want to connect your trap tunnels to your amplifiers. It's very important in Save the World. Can aggro smashers, especially when you do that. So be mindful and careful. All right, so all this comes in, and again, we want tier 3. I'll go ahead with my 1/3 walls as we place. And as we're working through here. Now, These walls over here, we will continue. And continue. Here. Here. And then we're going to wrap here, here, and here. This will have a window. This has a window. And this has a window right here. And then we extend down with windows once again. Continue to make sure everything's tiered. And I like to usually trap after the fact. It's easier to make adjustments if need be, and it gives you another opportunity to make sure everything is upgraded to where you want it to be. So, when it comes to a build, make sure, in order to have an authentic build, that you understand that your base will count as a structure. So if you have just yourself, that's one structure you need to keep left over. If you have teammates come in, right? Typically with my builds, I'll leave 4 structures at the end to ensure that we have an authentic build and potential for placement that way. So we are just working in through here. Having things on the same direction, excuse me. And then tier 3. And then I want 2 walls up here through those 2 windows. And 2 walls here for those windows. And this will be something that's sort of niche, if you will, when I run this here. But I do like to run it, especially because you have a heavy smasher wave that comes in through here. And this can be of benefit to you, having these tiles. All right, this comes here. And then back up into our opening here. And then in the end, you've got 3, 6 to the 9, and then 10 to 11 to start with. So we don't want to cover that. Now, outside of here, there are some options that you have. And again, this is a playstyle choice for sure. I want to just discuss it with you so I can give you an opportunity to do different things here. So for now, I'm going to go with the 1/3 edited, and then we'll come back to it when it's all said and done. And you're going to note that this ties perfectly off of that amplifier build in episode 3 that I went over when we spoke about your D.I.P amplifier. So we are good here. Now, on these 2 tiles here, we also have options. I'm not going to deny that. You need to determine how you want to handle it when it's all said and done. All right. Now, for me, they don't. I tend to favor, like, for instance, we're going to do a block off that's facing to the southeast here. Sorry, I just want to make sure I explain this right. And you're going to be protecting yourself from this area over here, basically, with that block off. From this direction when they come down through here. And then this block off over here would be just in case they try to get cute in this section here. All right, so again, you would edit towards the southeast again. And then ultimately protect yourself. So you're basically adding 2 block offs on the end, both facing to the southeast. A lot of times you might say to yourself through the series, not necessary, might even say not correct or not this. Well, again, there are many different play styles in Save the World, and I always respect everybody's opinion. I can tell you safely and without question, this is a battle-tested build. If you do not utilize the traps that I use or recommend, and or do not follow this step by step, or find yourself in my recommended AFK spot, things can turn out different. And that's just not with my build, that's with all builds. Okay? But again, I've made these choices based on my playstyle and what I feel works best for me off of it. All right. So just so we're clear on that, because I know when I do builds, or people do just in general Save the World in the community, I know what can occur. So let's go ahead and talk about it now. Okay. So we have all of this going on now, and for the reasons that I have discussed through your trap tunnel. And then at the end, we will go with our 1/3 walls all down this way. And we will be talking, as I mentioned, about the trapping process at the very end. All right, so that covers all of this section here now. Then we're going to work up to this little corner pocket, as you'll see right here. And I want a block off right here. Just like you're seeing. With a window here. A window here. And then we will take the ceiling into account. And I do want this right here. It is important to have it. We'll get some nice play off of it. Another thing about this style build, when you talk about damage over stall, recycling, and or when you start using techniques like coning, lighthousing, loot bridges, smasher bridges, those builds, unlike damage, tend to, when the game reverts to previous, limited time modes or content, and or potentially makes changes, which we don't see too often now these days, but when you use those techniques, they do not stand true or as true as damage does over time. Damage doesn't let you down. It always proves true. And that's why I always have built with it and recommend it. When you start using manipulation techniques, right? Glitches, things like that, bad things can happen. And they typically do a lot. And the builds do not stand the test of time. And my experience will not only prove that to me, but if you have experience, it should prove it to you as well. Okay. Now, off of this build here, we're going to go ahead and connect that trap tunnel. And now through here, this is an interesting little section. And you have a choice here. What I like to do is 2 tiles right here. I'll fill in the connection that we had here. And then off of this block off that I built, I will wrap this typically around. And then we will connect it here in the future. But underneath in this area, I want you to have 2 tiles at least of builds here. So you kind of wrap it to this point for now. We'll just call it what it is to the edge. All right. And then just seal this in here. And we'll talk about the adjustment in just a moment, but we're going to close all this down. And I'll show you again from the top section here, but it all kind of just connects. And you do want these, especially if you're going to be running base placements and things of that nature that you want the base to spread, and or any area where you have an opening that's toward the direction of the husk. If you leave an opening, they are going to lob and throw at you. So be mindful of that and be very careful of it. All right. So that takes care of that trap tunnel section. And now we're getting ourselves into this area here. Now, one thing I can tell you is in this area, you're going to have a whole entire hotspot location. I often see people building in here and their builds end up getting destroyed and then they end up losing. This tile here can get lost. This one and this one. Without question, anything on the floor. Right? This tile can get lost. So can this. Tiles in here can as well. And or here if you use it. So definitely want to point out this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th tile right here. And I would even tell you 8 and 9 here, believe it or not. It really and ultimately comes down to how you want to approach your build. Again, I approach it with the exception of the floor because no matter what you do, you don't need it here to begin with. You can be without it. Truly, you can. That's why I do not build it all whatsoever. But again, with the other walls here, because they can provide me some use, especially early on, I'll play off of them. All right, and you just connect your floors here. And then when we get into the trapping, we will speak about this more. I'll actually have this here. And this is a floor here, by the way. And then in here, we'd have another block off. Okay. Just like this. And again, you'd have your opening here, in here, and we'd seal right here. So you do not have a land bridge. Which is important to know. You don't want to have it. Nice little area here where you can get some good play from. Is it necessary? If you build the ceiling, yes. Right? Or if you keep the ceiling low, yes. But if you choose not to, okay, you can go a different direction, but I like to use this area here to my benefit. And I usually have a window here. And then, believe it or not, we'll have a window here. So you'll see these windows working their way down and through and around. Then you'll jump over the top here. Run down your trap tunnel here and here. And then build ceilings up top and at least 2 tiles high from the floor. This seals down and down. This comes out like this here. And then you have this and this right here. And again, everything is tier 3. And you have a choice, like I said, here. If you don't want that ceiling, you want it up a tile, you take it up a tile. You can get rid of that. If you don't want these 2 sound walls here eventually, with darts shooting through, by the way, you don't have to play. But I will tell you, it adds quite a bit to the build, and I would go with it. Even if, for some strange reason, this ceiling were still to go, you'd still be golden. Now, I also have, if you want an extension here, where you can build openings. And you can either build a T formation here, or extend additional ceiling tiles up here. And forget about that middle section. I just try to keep you and save you a tile. Sometimes on torn apart, the ceilings will stay. With torn apart, reminder that the traps aren't supposed to disappear, but the torn apart can still destroy your structures. So if you notice that dropping, go ahead and put a ceiling here and here instead. It's a complete and total playstyle choice, but I don't usually have a lot of use for the ceiling traps here, so I try to save and just go with the 1 tile over the 4 with the traps and the ceilings. willing to sacrifice the darts if need be at the end. But if you don't want to run that extension too, you just put 2 darts here and forget about it altogether. If you feel you don't need it. That's dependent upon how strong your traps are in the game. And then right down here on this floor can also be lost, but I still run it. And you'll have your hotspots and stuff up in here now that will destroy or work off destroying your builds. And then what you will do is you will come up off of this here that we have gone. Okay. And just like before, we're going to run around the build to the very end. Just like this here. We actually don't need this piece, as you can see. And then we will go ahead here and fill this in with our ceilings. And then from this edge out to here, work all the way across to the end and just fill this in. Now, you don't need to trap this if you don't wish to. I will tell you that your endurance will be much better. And if you are newer, I would play off this because your traps aren't going to be as strong, potentially, and or have as much durability. I would also mention to you that I would highly recommend using Machinist Harper as your main hero when you are running endurance. You can also use her in support, but you lose a significant amount of trap durability. It'll also help you if your survivor squads are not completely maxed with the trap durability. And even if you are maxed in trap durability, I would still run Machinist Harper without question to get that free trap durability in the main. Remember, we're AFK. We don't need to be shooting handheld weapons or fighting. If you are, then we've missed something along the way, right? You want to be AFK. Now, when you are in endurance, though, I do want to point this out. You don't necessarily have to stay AFK. You know, when you come in to endurance, you check, you grab your base, you teleport down, you put your materials away. You can go in there and check where the last wave occurred or multiple waves and collect resource that's on the ground. You can actually farm anything during the endurance or an active endurance, and everything will regenerate. Reminder, anything you break previous will be lost forever. Same thing with war games. You'd have that same mentality or outlook. Okay, so let's go ahead and tear this all the way down. Just like we are seeing here. And you don't need the ceilings up here, and you don't need them over there either. Don't worry about it. That build will shred. You will have no problem at all whatsoever there. Again, just everything at the appropriate tier now. And then your last thing to take consideration. Now, of course, until we are ready to build out here, I would just go ahead because I know that this is going to be something that we're using here. All right. I go ahead and do a little extension here because we will, again, play off that in the future. There's just a little section here that I'm going to work off of. In case something were to leak around until you get an opportunity, you know. Believe it or not, if you're doing storm shields, now there are going to be additional attacks with storm shields, but especially when it comes to that home base build there, if you build that from day one, you have a build that's going to last you not only through all your storm shields, but your endurance as well, right? So anyway, just that little section here. We won't worry about the ceilings or anything right now. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then honestly, with this other build here, our ceilings would then turn into a different direction. So I know where one build ends and where the next one starts, if you will. And honestly, when we start looking at this build, it's probably going to be to this point at these 2 tiles here. All right, so just for a moment, I know that we just did it here, but I would actually, when it comes to your build, because I know this is going to be your future here, I would aim your walls to the south or your ceilings to the south, just like this, all the way down. because this is going to be your new build. And it is important because you'll approach it differently. See how we have, so that way I know, hey, this is my build for here. This is my build over here. And I might want to change, you know, traps or patterns or alternations, staggers, so on and so forth. You still have them here, but I would make sure that you have the lines facing that other direction. All right. So we're going to finalize now down in here. Everything else looks great. To this little section right here. And we're just going to tie around. Okay. Just like we have right here. And just run a row of walls like I am showing you. You have your dart already playing through. You have an opening here with a dart. You'll have a dart shooting through here. All areas will be protected. And when it comes to the build for this amplifier, there you have it. Now let's go ahead and start speaking of the traps. And I'm just going to take you through. We're going to mix in multiple traps as we go. And again, my roles are specific to my playstyle. And when I am running limited time modes like Fortnite Survive the Horde, Endurances, Endgame 160s, not necessarily specified or completely focused on high durability amounts either. All right, just remember that with traps. It's based on your playstyle, what you're doing in the game. You don't need the most damage. You need the right damage. And or you could say the same thing about durability and so on and so forth. Right? I just give you recommendations of battle-tested traps that are proven and are able to solo Frostnite at the highest level. So, and all modifiers. Survive the Horde at the highest level, all modifiers. Endurance. Endgame 160s, through and through. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and start with this section right here. And when it comes to our darts, we'll have a primary at 1 reload, front to back, a stagger, 2 reloads side to side throughout the entire build. So when I'm using darts, that's what I'm using. And I will often come back in here and grab them a second time so that we're showing. Those are your darts. Sound walls. I'll be using my medium and my slow. We'll be changing the reload speed with epic instead of legendary. I have a fast that's full legendary, medium with 1 epic reload, slow with 2 epic reload. And what you want to do is ensure you are using different reload speeds on your sound walls. For if they fire at the same time, you only receive the effects of 1. So, in something like Endurance, you'll have more consistent travel throughout. So after that first strike, then they'll be on a different reload and continue to fire because you have that constant pathing occurring through. Just something to keep in mind. And then over here on this other section that I built, same formation. Through. And then on the walls here, same exact thing. Here, skip a tile. Here again. Then we go with the 2 epic reload. Here and right here. Okay. I will tell you though, right here, if you wish, you could change this, which I actually like a little bit more, and just go with your medium here instead. You can do that. And then you throw a dart here. And for me personally, I like it more, but I want to give you both options. It protects you at 1, 2, and 3 to your opening. There's not an area where they can stand and maybe get after you if you're sealing. It gives you another layer of strength and protection. I do like that there, but so that's what I recommend. All right. Now, right here, I will sometimes utilize a connection. It's just, this is an extra for you if you wish to have it. And if you have that dart here, right, and with all the other roles that we have, then you come in here with your other sound wall. You can get a little bit more sound wall play here. This is an optional part of your build up. Just want to be clear on that. So that covers those sound walls there. And then when we come in through here on these walls, one of each of the sound walls. Do not use the same one. Very important here. If you can't drop it, take the wall down, then drop it, and then upgrade. Very nice use this area is for the sound wall and for the broadside, especially for me. First strike, we'll only get the effects of one of them. But after that, with the consistency and the travel, you'll be golden. Anytime you're in that 1x1 area. And sometimes if you got two walls beside each other even, same kind of deal there. All right, so that's your propane prevention and darts early on there. Now, on the walls otherwise, again, our primary wall dart shooting out to the open field. I'm going to take you to this area right here. So 2. All right, and then in here, we'll use our darts throughout. So we'll go with the darts. Boom. 2, 1. If I say 2 and 1, we're talking reload speed. Now, in this area here, when you come down the hill, if you keep it like this, you can flatten that and throw an electric field there, and it will strike for damage if you want it. Is it necessary, though? I'm going to say no, it's not. Just go here and go. You'll also find that I use this a lot over this. I'm willing to sacrifice the darts for the wall strength in case you have a propane explosion for some reason. So I'm willing to do that. All right. Now through here, and for every trap tunnel you ever have in the game, or trapping pattern, always start with the wooden floor spike for a full tile snare, plus 1, 2, and a half a slowing effect, which will then in turn make and allow all of your other traps to be more efficient and effective based on the reload speeds. It'll slow things down for you. And there's nothing wrong with going back to back with that trap to a point where you think you could have a potential smasher. And then it starts over. So you'll get snare, and then it's 1, 2, and a half slowing after. On the entry point, primary ceiling gas trap. No more than 1 reload speed on that trap, by the way. Effect duration never needs to exceed rare. Epic and legendary, you do not receive that inefficient and proper return. If you want to save perk up, just go rare there. And never more than 1 reload speed. Or less. Direction does not matter on that trap. Or the trap so far, per se. But I always treat trapping as always placing over my back shoulder for the most part. In case, for some reason, they have a change in the game and or it causes knockback that is not otherwise stated. For example, with the ceiling zapper that has that impact can actually cause knockback, but it doesn't say it does. But I've seen it with my own eyes on multiple occasions, so just be aware of it. All right. But anyway, you start here and we work through. Okay. Here we have our dynamos. I want 2 different dynamos in Stonewood at least. Also, you do need, beyond popular belief, more than 1 of every trap. It will make things better for you. All right. So usually I will have my primaries, typically in a scenario like this, would be side to side. So the reloads here, and then the stagger or the secondary here. and then the dart shooting through. Then we work down. This section here. 2 different broadside traps, primary stagger, facing each other, different reloads. Just working off of the epic perk up on the reload, not having anything more than the 1 reload speed. Great roll for this trap, by the way, battle tested. Now, I was opposed to this 5x1 style in the past. I didn't like it much. I was willing to sacrifice a bit, but over time, I've evolved with it, and I like this pattern better. All right, and again, if you cannot place the trap, we'll start with your primary. If you can't place it, take those walls down for a moment, the walls back, then go ahead and place the 2 different style broadsides. This is my favorite and main and probably only place I really do use the broadside trap. Again, we don't need the most damage. I need the right. And when you look at that broadside trap and you start talking about reload times of 8.5 and 8.9 and even higher if you do not have any reload. If you count 1,000, 2 1,000, 3, that's how many husks are going through your trap tunnels before that trap fires again. So to me, it's extremely niche. And you always want to be having a wall facing it. And I always prefer natural terrain to be facing in case one of them get lost. It still fires off the terrain. For instance, if you have that broadside shooting here, you have your 1 or 2 tiles. And some would even say up to 3, right? For them to roll, but typically here, preferably 1, then 2 for me, right? If you lose this wall, then you still have that second wall to protect. And then if you lose both, you have a trap that's shooting out in the open field with nothing to bounce off of. That's no bueno. All right? So anyway, only place you're really going to see for me, typically, right here or in a kill box, typically. I might go with it. A specialized kill box. All right? So coming off of now, the wooden floor spike, I actually have 3 different tar pit traps. My primary, my secondary, and my anchor. And I work fast reload into no reload. So 2, 1, and none. And I'm going to go primary, secondary, and anchor. All off and down there. And then, of course, the darts would match the same pattern side to side at the 2 reload. And then I will cut it or stagger it with the 1 reload. I usually refer to the 2 reload as my stagger, though. And then you're just going to match that pattern of the darts as the enemies come out and through. Here and here. I actually do not like a dart here, but I will tell you that a dart here plays if anything were to come out. And that would be our 1 reload front to backer. On a rare occasion, you can get a big ticket enemy that can come through here. And you would think they would work up through here. But what I see sometimes is they will work out and down and through here instead. So if you want a couple of darts back here, you could. But usually with this, and as they're working through, we're golden. I don't usually put the darts otherwise. All right. Then we work down right here. Believe it or not, I tend to, you can either go gas again here if you wish. Or you can go electric field. Right? This really is a playstyle choice, honestly. I'm going to go with my primary electric field here, but again, to each their own. Just remember with a gas trap, you want the wooden floor spike or the effects of it underneath, or the freeze or tar. But one thing about the tar pit and freeze that I often see, and I don't necessarily agree with or recommend, people will start with tar pits right from the beginning of their trap tunnels, not realizing or overlooking the fact that every husk that crosses that trap takes a durability, and or that trap can cause clogging, which will cause smashers to aggro and charge, propanes to be thrown, or exploders to stop and explode when you get clogging. Again, that's why we only go with nothing more than that 1/3 wall. Right? Same thing with the freeze trap. And the freeze trap can knock back. You know, it just causes clogging. So I never early on ever utilize them. It's usually deeper into the tunnel. Tar is usually toward the end where the charges are more likely to occur. Very rarely do I use the freeze trap, believe it or not. It's not one of my traps that, based on my playstyle, that I ever feel like I need or utilize. I'd rather have the wooden floor spike, honestly. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday. For durability, smooth movement through the builds. If you are working consistency and different reloads in that, you do not need to be dependent upon the freeze trap as much and the tar early. And in fact, they will burn quickly in Endurance. Frost Knight, the Horde, I don't recommend them early on before you have the effects of this at least. I'd rather have a triple layer of tar pit, you know, working from the core out. But anyway, that is this trap tunnel here as we're working through to this point. And then as they come out behind this area, whenever we see it, I like a heels attached spike because this is a smasher stopper, basically, right here. That's all that should be getting to your trap tunnels at this point. A mini boss, rare occasion, a riot or husky husk, but usually if you have that going, something's gone wrong. All right. And then again, Zapper, high damage impact, single target enemy only. Never want to have that trap up here in the main pathing of your area here. It's usually in a kill box or at the end of your tunnel. And then you want to combo with it. Okay. So you go your standard crit build, but I go over my shoulder this way in case that impact causes knockback. It'll knock them back against this wall a little bit more. And often I will have a dynamo here with an opening and a dart shooting through there because of that. And then we have, and if you want to do that, because I do like it actually, you come here with it. All right. And then you shoot your dart through here. I do. I play this a lot. So I'm going to throw it in here just to give you a different option if you want to utilize it. Right. Then you would have a dynamo here that is less likely to, and it's your primary. It's more likely to strike, excuse me, in that situation once that impact takes effect. That's an optional inclusion for you. And then right here, that's your primary. I want your finisher over your back shoulder out this way. For the most part, that trap isn't going to one-hit that enemy, especially when you get to the end game. You always want the more damage first, and then you come back with a faster reload speed finisher. So when you were talking about your traps there, and then we work through. And that concludes this side of your trap tunnel. And again, I knew this episode would be extended, but don't want to overlook it. Then we're going to work off of this one. I do want to point out that when you use wooden floor spikes, tar and freeze can work against the effects of what you're trying to obtain from the sound wall. But I always like to start it, so we're going to put it. All right. I'm not worried about the dancing effect here so much ever, really, with the sound walls. I'm more worried about, you know, them firing consistently, getting that propane to drop. But we work up. Now, these two areas here, and again, this is a play style choice for you. Usually when they're coming up here with a ceiling drop trap now, especially when you are near sound walls, because if you put a zapper there, it could hit the husk and actually take it below the threshold of where it needs to, you know, where it starts exploding on you, stopping exploding, and it doesn't finish it off. So anything more than one tile high, especially if you have this, you can drop your primary ceiling drop trap and roll them back down and out here. And then they work up here. And you can either go with your block offs here, right, and do 2 block offs here and here. And then you could have your darts shooting here and here for a smasher, a blaster only. Very specific on what you're doing there. Or you can open these up, take away the block off piece. And in this case, that's what we are going to do here today. Keep the floor the way that I recommended it to you early on. Can't adjust this because we got a trap underneath it. And then you would rinse and repeat that pattern with your dynamos. So the stagger back here, and then the 2 faster reloads are primary here and here. And I actually have a third one that I typically mix in, but I don't want to go over the top in Stonewood on you. All right, but I'll run 3 different ones typically. That's a true statement, by the way. I will. And then in here, right, I will work off my electric fields here. So usually I will have a primary here. And here, and then I will skip in with the stagger here and out over here. This tile here would be your tar pit. I like a fast reload or your primary here. This is a wall launcher. Please be mindful of the wall launcher, especially if you are stalling or recycling, you know, especially stalling. Impact can actually cause damage in the game at times. And just because that trap says 3 impact on it, doesn't necessarily mean it's giving you a 3 full impact. You need to watch that and test it. A lot of times you're getting 2 3/4, 2.5 only. Be aware of that when it comes to your rolls. Also be aware if you're using a combination of wall launcher, floor launcher, and you have the same rolls that they both can actually fire at the same time and no action with the husk can occur. Make sure you always have the wall launcher and floor launcher on your mechanic on different reloads from each other on the same 1x1 section, so that doesn't occur. Just a tip for you. Okay, and then front to back again with the dart at the 1 reload here and here. Up through here, this would be the 2 reload or stagger here and here. Again, this is primarily focused on the big smasher and blaster for those darts. And then they work through. Now, through this hole in the wall here, as we work around and through, I actually do like a wall dart shooting through there. So we want to make sure we're including that on the build. And then we come through that way. Here, same dart again. And or you could do a couple of sound walls out here, theoretically. I just don't like them. I want you to protect yourselves here, because enemies can stand here if you don't have that dart, and they'll start lobbing. You don't want that to occur. So I would just go with your dart here again, backside. And then what you got going on here is they work up, hopefully drop the propane. This will slow it down a little bit when it comes to the dancing theory. At times, you got to watch it. Sometimes it does, doesn't. Same thing with freeze and tar. You're going to watch that. All right. And then they push down and into the other opening here. And then the same pattern with those dynamos again. And it will be different because I've done the stagger here. So I'm going to switch the stagger to this point, and then the 2 primaries over here. And then they come down, so it's all kind of working off a different rotation, if that makes sense. And instead of blocking that all off, I turn this into a usable area for me. So that takes care of all of that trap tunnel. I think we'll cover ceiling traps at the end, okay? With the exception of, let's go ahead and take care of our areas that I spoke about up here. All right, so I'm going to work around. Temporarily throw these down. Dart pattern would be the same as always. Side to side, 2 reload. Let me find them again to make sure we have the right one. Same thing over here. Don't need darts in the corner sections. Don't want darts in those corner sections. And then front to back would be the 1 reload. Okay. Just like you're seeing here. You don't need, believe it or not, this tile or this tile if you do not want it. It's in a direction that's not facing toward the objective, so it won't draw as much interest. So those can go. All right. Then these all come down. Just going to go ahead and find additional tiles for you as we work. Now, believe it or not, when they fall here in this corner section, and even over here now, okay, you could potentially get sound wall action here. So if you want, or you're worried about propane, Right? You start that pattern and you alternate here. And depending on where you expect them to fall, I have it underneath as you saw there already. But in this corner section here, if you want, or you could even, you could skip and use all 4. I would do that same thing when it comes to your sound walls right here in the corner. Using the 2 different reloads, of course, if they're in. And then again, you've got your 1 epic, your 2 epic, then your 1 epic here. And then you would have since you have the 1 here, you'd go 2 here, right? You're alternating. And then they drop down here anyway. It's just another area that will go. And if you do not want, I like it because it's cleaner. If you don't want these here, I would keep these, believe it or not, because you want them to fall. But you could take them. But I like them. I think it plays nicely, and it makes it look cleaner. And then up here with the electric fields, alternating fashion. Primary, skip, primary, skip, primary, skip, primary. Okay. And then you come in, stagger, 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 and of course, stagger. This can potentially cause propane when they drop to explode and hit. If you notice that, just take that electric field away. You have to take the electric fields in the corners, but your open field down here, if that goes, if these go, you still have these up here that we will play off of. All right. So make sure to point that out to you. All right. So that covers that area up there. And then over here, same thing. All right. Let's get our darts working. Where they apply. Also want to point out with traps, no difference between 144s and 130s. Your traps will downcraft here in the zone to the level 79. All right. And they will continue that pattern. The 106s, 77s as well. They all kind of start downcrafting down. Once you get into the 50s and 20s, you're golden. But be aware that they will. And there's no difference between the 144s and 130s. So no, you do not need 144 traps when it comes to this particular build. I would tell you, though, endurance is an end-game activity typically. Although when you're early on, I still want you to get it up and you start working, even if you can only complete 5, 10, 15, 20 waves off of your Storm Show builds. All right, I do like it, but nonetheless, we're good here. All right, so then you have your darts, and then you have that similar outlook on traps potentially. But believe it or not, right here, I leave these be in this area. I use the play off the darts more so than I do the electric fields. I like the ceiling drop traps here a little bit more. And then when we get to the ceilings, I will talk to you about why. Now, if you want, though, and you wanted to do the extension that I spoke about earlier where you wrap, you could get a couple ceiling electric fields over the spawn. But again, for what I like to do out here, I kind of let it be. All right, so just keep the darts here for now. We'll talk about that at the end. All right, so that concludes all that with the exception of the ceilings. Same thing over here now. Okay, 2 different reload options on your sound walls. That 1 reload dart shooting straight with the 1 reload front to back. You have this area here. This here would be a front to back dart, but right here on the floor, right here, I want you to put a tile here. I want you to throw an anti-air trap right here on the floor. This area here can draw some propane from you, and they really like to attack this wall here. So please be mindful of that and protect it with an anti-air. And actually, both these tiles, if you wanted, you could do 2. I'm just going to go with the 1 though for you on my recommendation in case they stop and try to throw here at you. It could play nice. All right. Then off of these walls here, with our heels attached wall spike, I'm going to start lining that trap in these areas here. In your important areas where you don't want the walls to fall. Just line the walls here. Big time smasher situation here that it can occur. propane that can occur. I did do anti-airs. I used to use the anti-airs here on these floors. I've been noticing though, from updates, what have you, that they're not necessarily firing enough to warrant use. And often they don't over the 1/3. So I actually get rid of both of these tiles on the floor and save the tiles. Keep these two though, and I'll tell you why, because that's your structure that you've built. All right, so that takes care of that, and you're running and lining those around. Same thing up here on these. And if you want to gain access, we just come real quick through the ceiling, like this here. I'll drop down. I'd line these two. In case anything gets cute and wants to sit there and, attack you. And then you can just go ahead here and through it. The same thing in here, believe it or not. Just edit through the top. Come up and down and in. And hit these two. We're actually going to talk about a different trap too, but I just want to start with these spikes here. Not so worried about this one here. I would run one here though. Through this. Absolutely. All right. So that covers this, or these areas for you with that trap. Then what we're going to do is we will work our way through. And we'll start with our dart pattern shoot through. So we got our darts working. 1 reload front to back, 2 reload side to side, and we're in. Now, sometimes this floor here, believe it or not, I will adjust this and do like a wrap around old school onion and wrap corner section here too, if you want. I know some people will do that. Or, you can, of course, you can edit your floors, but I kind of just tend to like to go with this here. You would actually mess with the floor a little differently there if you went. But this one here has been standing true. And then the angle here. And if you just need to gain access briefly, just come in and, work it. And then you're shooting through the front here with your 1 reload again. I do recommend this one angled, though, out here to your northeast. So that covers that. And then we work through again, and darts will come up and in. Probably should have hit this while we were already in, but that's okay. Again, it's just every time you can get your eyes on the build interior, gives you an opportunity to make sure that you are, in fact, tier 3 on your most important block offs. So I never mind coming back in here and being more methodical and repeating my action to protect myself. And then we're going to be having damage pretty much with me and when we're building from all directions always. I never miss a chance. If I can get some damage, it's going to be firing. All right, so all good through here, into here. This here, believe it or not, I open this. I will throw the dart here. I actually put a zapper here. On occasion, you can get a little bit of hitting here, which can cause phasing. And I just kind of take care of it as a result. So keep everything the way that you have it here. And then we are ready to rock. And then we'll start the next build that I showed you here. But we will finish with that 1 reload dart right here. And we're good for now. Then we're going to talk about the sound walls. Same exact pattern. You can even mix in your fast here now for a 3rd if you wished. But I still find the medium and slow to be golden. Sometimes that fast, when it fires too fast. That's why the term rainbowing start coming into play. There was a time where you never wanted to go more than uncommon here, but then I found that sometimes it wouldn't fire at when you needed it to. I just find that this new tested way up to date, that it's running well for me. Again, choose your play style though. And then what you're going to do is on all of these walls that we just methodically went through, starting with the 1 epic perk up. Boom, skip a tile, boom, skip, boom, skip, boom, skip, and boom. And then you come in through with the other one, with the 2 epic perk up, and you start working. Just make sure you have the right one again. Sometimes these two, if you have it armed and you're just messing with the epic perk up, it'll try to reload or put the other one back in on you as the numbers change if you have the same number of traps. So just make sure you're paying attention as you are placing those and you are getting them to go at the right. And at the end, you can verify, keep the same number so you know you have the same number left. So you've matched what you need. Don't forget this anti-air here, by the way. All right. Then with this tunnel, we'll go back to back on the snare. I will go ahead and start with the gas here. Now, it does work better with the tar in the freeze, but you still get a nice long snaring effect across here. It still has a chance to work, and it's still effective. And I'll go with that one, and then I have the stagger one behind it. And then right here, I'll go back with a third one typically, and or I'll just reset the process. But I don't want you to put a wooden floor spike here or here. All right. Instead, what I want at these two locations is your primary tar pit here and here. Don't need anything over here. Never really have any action over here. Sometimes on a rare occasion, you get a smasher will try to charge you. And if you notice that happening, you can also throw your one reload dart right here as well, if you feel like you need it for some reason. Otherwise, though, let's go ahead and 2 reloads side to side. As worked out. You've got your dynamos now here and along the edges here. For the dynamos, primary on one side, stagger on the other. And then as I work down in here, that same pattern again, stagger deep, primary sides. Or if you have a third one, you would continue the same process, right? And then put your third one there. Now, I will point out that I have these holes over here in the walls, right? It's an interesting little area here. Okay, you have your dart shooting 1, 2, and to the 3 through if you were to run it this way and you wanted to shoot it out here. All right, but I don't want to do that. This is solely for a big time smasher that would come through potentially, or smashers if those are going to strike. I'll be honest with you. Very niche, very rare too. It's not, don't expect consistency there. Just something I like to do to add a little extra heat to the build. All right. Another thing that you can do here though, is if you do not like that, you can come in here like we've done before. All right, with 1 through walls, and you'd sacrifice your block off and throw your electric fields. It really does come down to your playstyle. Now, because it doesn't strike as much for me, I instead go this way, send the dart out and through. I make sure I have my heels attached spike on this block off, right? And then I'll work through this way on it instead. So for this wall, I won't leave the opening there. Just like this here. All right, and then at the end here, you would have a wall light potentially, or your primary wall dynamo. But it all works and shoots through there. And then up here, what I will do, and again, this is dependent upon the action and if you're worried about smashers and so on and so forth. All right, but here, if I'm going to run this, typically I'll take this out. Right, I'll run the darts here. For it's a just in case thing. And then front to back through here and the side to side here. And that would protect me if I had a smasher get cute over here. And then the same kind of thing, I'd have that dynamo right here shooting through and use the primary. And that's it. That's a what if. That's planning ahead. And then this here would be if the smasher comes, it could strike that smasher. And then when it comes to your traps here, right, I would go with 2 electric fields, and we'll talk about that at the very end. And then same thing down in here. Now, when it comes to those electric fields, I like the primary here and here, the stagger here and here. Then I'll come back in with the primary, and then the stagger over here. And then as they drop down, same concept. One on one side. If you want that, you want use of it now, you edit it out. And one on the other, or even a third one potentially. You actually don't need as many electric fields as you think you do on all the tiles. That's why you're seeing me use gas here. You don't necessarily get the effect you think you do with the mechanic of how that really works when you test it. Just something to think about. But anyway, these dynamos now would be here. This would be your primary because we had the stagger in the front. Right, in your golden. And then if you weren't using this tile for some reason, you could edit, but we're going to use it. Should not have any other issues here. And you don't need anything over here. You never have enemies there. All right, then they work down. Same exact pattern with your reloads cutting across. Then you've got your wall dart front to back, one reload here. Here, though, I like a wall launcher. And a primary ceiling drop trap. Pushing back in. I have the tar here. I actually start over with the wooden floor spike here. It'll help everything else work better. So we'll go wooden floor spike. And then these here would be two different dynamos. You primary and stagger here. A lot of real nice action here for yourself on the build. And then this dart here would come through and it'd be your one reload. And it ties perfectly into the amplifier build that I discussed, where it's, again, making sure we are not connected at all whatsoever. And there is a lot of damage coming through there, my friends. And it's absolutely devastating. Okay. So up we go into this area now. These walls over here, you have different options. All right. We have a lot of propane prevention, as you can see out here, right? So for me, I'm going to go ahead with just some darts here. And we're going to shoot dart. Front to back, one reload here and here. And then out here, the two reload. But do be aware that with the hot spots in the spawn, that these traps can be lifted. And I do want you to be mindful of that. So as such, on top of this right here, and as we're going through it, okay, and we're going to lift that dart for a second here on the side here, just so I can gain access. But in here, I actually like an electric field in case it blows, so you get action off an electric field. And then I'll come back in and just replace the dart. But up here, I'll put a heels attached floor spike here, that 6 perk. But again, be aware that this could potentially not stand the test of time, and I want to be open about it. Over here, on these two walls right here, I want 2 more darts. Here and here, shooting across. That'll get you 1, 2, into the 3. And even sometimes now some are saying 4. I have to really test and look at that. I've actually somewhat seen it at times hit 4, but not consistent. I'm just gonna we'll stay true to the 3. All right, so we're good. Then we will work our way on down into this area here. Again, these walls could potentially go. This, all these can go, believe it or not. But we'll build as if they are not. So let's get our traps working. And shooting for us in the directions we want them to. We're going to line traps all down in here, same kind of thing. And over here, be your 2 reloads. This one here, 1 reload. And that one there's already tied in 1 reload for you. Up here would be your dynamos, however you want to run them. I tend to just go ahead and stagger. That's just my style, but you can do whatever. If you have 2 back-to-back, typically at least. Right? Or what you can do here is if you have a primary here, right, make sure, and we just lost that vector, as I just showed you, you would. Okay, we'll just seal it back, but make sure here, when we got our wall dart shooting through, if that's the stagger, then you come in here, and this would, or excuse me, that's your primary. This would be your stagger. All right, and then you go back with the primary again. Believe it or not, this really does make a big time difference in Save the World if you can understand and utilize this type stuff. That's why it's so hard for me when I do trap videos in the past. For some reason, to Save the World, people think you need the most damage. You have to have DPS rolls on everything. That's not true. And it's tough to explain it otherwise why you do it. It really is dependent upon your playstyle and what you're running and having an understanding of it all. Again, on your trap tunnels here, I do like wooden floor spike here. I actually go back to back here and here. This sometimes can get lifted too. Now in here, these will be darts because of the reasons I mentioned to you early of the reload times. There's a big difference once again between 3.3 and 4.2. And then there is when you start talking 8.5 and 8.9 with the broadside. That's big time difference, by the way. All right, so be aware of it. But in here, because of this section and these walls, I'll sneak it in. And it's now with this, I want the primary, full legendary. Here, like this. All right. And then I would tell you to have the stagger here. And believe it or not, right here if you want to run the broadside. That way you have your primary here and your stagger here in case this wall were to fall. And you would still have good use off of your traps. And then again, I'd have the primary in here as well. Just in case that goes. And you have natural terrain here. You have something to bounce off of here still. So it plays. I'm just going to mix it in for you because I have that one structure. And then the same thing applies here again with your traps. I love that. I do like that gas trap to start the process for me. I'm going to go with it as they're working through and down. Nothing on the floors here at all whatsoever. Side dart shooting through. With the understanding, again, that the traps, the walls over here are most likely going to go. Nothing needed to be here or here. I will tell you, though, up on this little tile, when they work their way up, let's go take a look at it. So we can go over it in good detail here for you. So right under here, okay, I wouldn't put any healing traps or anything over here because it's not going to play anyway for you. Okay. Right under here, though, I would do an electric field. Primary. We'll come out for a second. Seal it back down. And this ceiling piece is temporary for us, as you can probably tell already. But right under here, I would go with a heels attached spike. Okay. I like the pyramid here, but again, we'll just go ahead and edit to the direction we had it. And then inside of here, believe it or not, a couple things that you can do. And I actually do recommend them, just in case you get something to occur. On the back walls, I want you to have the heels attached spike here. Sorry. Let's see if the game's going to let me get in there. Okay. And back over here. So have that still there. And then, but on the inside here, go ahead and get two of those increased build health ones. So let's grab those for just a minute. And that'd be whatever build that you want to have on them. But here and here, I would do that here. Just in case you get something that occurs, which is likely to happen during that specific hotspots wave. And then you were golden. So do protect yourself on those particular walls right there. Gives them a chance to hit and pound. Ceiling trap on the inside there. That would be a playstyle decision. Truly based on how you play the game and or want to attempt. If you want to put one in there, you can edit in there, go through the sidewall, get it, but I'm not going to mess with it. You don't need it. All right, so that would cover all of this ground level in that tunnel. And then if you want to temporarily, you could dart this and get it ready in case you get something that leaks over here. But we'll talk about that in the next episode. But what we are going to talk about now is going to finalize with all of our ceiling traps. And we're going to start with the ceiling drop trap. And what I like to do with a ceiling drop trap is I tend to run a stagger formation with them, splitting them with an electric field. So typically by my walls on my ceiling drop trap, I will go with my faster reload. And I will line these walls over my back shoulder now. Just like this here. And notice how I'm using a different reload. Or skipping a tile on each one for now. And especially near, and we'll know we start fresh there. So we kind of line those around where we have any potential sound walls or near those entrances of our trap tunnels. And the reason you want to do that is, and then we're going to grab that, now we're going to grab the stagger one, right? Or the primary, I guess. Right. We're going to go over our shoulder now here. And then at that different reload, same thing over here now. Actually, I would go over my shoulder here with this. And then straight back here. Straight back here. 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 And right here. So that's your first layer of ceiling drop traps. All right. Now, over here in this area, I do the same exact thing. When you're at your higher ceiling, you can't really stagger. And there's a couple areas where we're not going to be able to have the electric fields in between them. Now, the electric field will strike up to 3 tiles high. The problem is the little mini guys get through them. So as such, and in order to keep everything just, running right as rain, if you will, and I'm just going to get my count again. That's the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. So we would have right here. Right. We'll go over our shoulder with it. We're going to alternate here and work our way down here. And I know it seems a little complicated, but if you do it, it does make a big difference. Okay. And then these are your 2s. In this area. And then as they work up here, same type of thing. We're still working the 2 now. And we're talking reload speed, right? Then we're going to flip over this way. And work down. Again, alternating to this point. And then we will go in with the primary one. And you finish off. So again, 2 reload first. Then you go with the 1. Or if you had the 1, you go with the 2 again. Just comes down to whatever you've been utilizing and or going with. Okay? And then we'll go over the shoulder. Shoulder. Actually, I like to force backwards here. And then this is all taken care of for us. All right. So that gets your initial ceiling drop trap formations going for you. All right. Now, off of this here, and depending on whatever reloads, then you can go that second layer here if you want, and then you can alternate in electric fields if you wish. So you would skip a whole tile round and do electric fields, then you come back in, do tires, and then electric fields again. I really like that formation if it's something you choose. But otherwise, if you do not want to do that, if durability is a concern, you want a little bit more damage, after you get those key ones done, and I would actually go right here as well with 2 different ones here. And of course, over here. You know, when you can roll them down the hill. And I would do the same thing here, believe it or not. Here and right up here. Just to roll them down those hills. But then again, like I was saying, you come in here and we get the primary electric field. And then we're going to start alternating every other tile. All right. I would keep these because it's by the sound wall if you're running sound wall here. With tires as well. So we will get it right here in this specialized area. All right, just alternate them. Straight back. Here, here, and here. It'll protect your sound wall a little bit better. And then you have your staggered option here. Here and here. And you're good otherwise. On this side. Then we come up here. Starting back at the edge. Remember where our situation is. I'll remember this when we come in on next time. And you just alternate back and forth and down and through. And then you come back in here with that staggered option. Here, 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 here. And believe it or not, right here, if you wish. And you could also go with a couple more just sailing drop traps there if you're worried about your propane. Then we come down in through here. I like either the tire or the electric field. That's a to each is their own, or both, believe it or not. It really comes down to a playstyle choice for you. But we're going to go ahead. And because we do not have wooden floor spikes on the ground, I'm going to go with ceiling drop traps here again. And we're just going to alternate straight back. I just want them straight back with our two different reloads. Till they get to here. And then here, I would go with your primary and your secondary stagger or two reload. So that takes care of all of that for you. When it comes to your trapping of your ceilings now. And then in our next episode, again, we will start with our new build and work ourselves around. And or I might take care of the west side amplifier first and do them in order of how I'd place them. And I think that's what we are going to do. I'm going to go order of placement for you of what I recommend. Final thing that you want to do at the very end, if you are following your endurance builds, you would want to have a place where you can put your base as you're following through and working. And this comes down to if you have mega base as your main or support. If you have mega base, you could actually fill these tiles in and have the base spread for you if you want. Or what I like to do is I will look at the main part of my trap tunnel in an area where I think it would be most beneficial. And usually in an area where I know the enemies necessarily would not want be in a block off area off to the side area, right? You never want it down the main path of your trap tunnel, right? And then we do need to understand that they're coming in and through, up and over this side as well, right? So I would go on this build somewhere where you have block off capability, right? And I would just start editing, right? Any of these walls here that you do not, you wouldn't want to do it. And then I would tend to probably try to throw over a block off a base placement here that will spread in through and around through your trap tunnel. And we go tier 2 on that one. And then over on this particular build, as we come up and through, based on your block offs, I actually do like, and here you got a trap. I like it back here, believe it or not, on this corner tile. And I'll give you that aerial view at the very end here. So that corner up there, this here. And those would be some really nice base opportunities for you in the future. And then when it comes to our other build, and I will point this out, We will have a block off section down here, and your base would go here, is where I usually like to have it. But we'll talk about that more so in the future when we get to this build. For now, let me just tear these off. Just gives you a little sneak peek of what we'll be doing in the future here. And remember, your ceilings, you'd want them facing in that opposite direction so you know where the builds separate from. But overall, this is your D.I.P amplifier in preparation for your east attacks.